Welcome to the College Football Bros. I'm Michael Newman.
I'm Ryan Newman.
And I'm Trey Newman.
All right, the committee came out with their first set of rankings on Tuesday night, so we're going to go through their top 25, give our thoughts on that, and at the end, we're going to give our most overrated and underrated teams. So, Ryan, let's get right into the rankings.
Number 25, we got the Pitt Panthers, led by Kenny Pickett, who's still in the Heisman contention race. He's still having a great year. That hurt last week, but
That hurt.
he's still around. They could finish hot. Number 24, I got San Diego State. They're sitting at 7-1. Just had their first loss against Fresno, but they're having a great year. Brady Hoke's having a good kind of bounce back here with the program. Speaking of the team they just lost to, number 23 is Fresno State. They've had a pretty tough schedule. Of course, they had a loss at Oregon, then one inexplicable loss to Hawaii. That kind of hurts, but been a good year for them. Number 22, we got Iowa, who's on a losing streak now. They've lost 2 in a row to Purdue and Wisconsin, pretty handily, kind of both games. The offense needs to wake up. And 21, we got Wisconsin, one of the only 2 3-loss teams that are in this top 25 rankings, but they've had a really tough schedule, so I'm not really that upset with it right now.
I'm a little upset.
Number 20, we got another Big Ten team, 3 in a row right there. Minnesota. Surprising season thus far for PJ Fleck, especially after that Bowling Green loss. But don't know if I'd have them higher than a couple teams just behind them, but not going to sweat it. Number 19, NC State. Devin Leary playing very efficient. Been a great season. They're in the ACC title mix. Number 18 is Kentucky. Number 17, Mississippi State. This is one of the surprising ones to me. They're 5-3, not ranked in the other polls, have some bad losses, but here they sit. And then
beat A&M.
That's true. And then their Egg Bowl rival sits at number 16. Lane Kiffin's boys, they've had kind of been bit by the injury bug, but they're still a very solid squad.
All right, on to 15, we have BYU. They've got 2 losses, but a lot of decent Power 5 wins. They've played a decent schedule, so understand them being here. Number 14, Texas A&M. The Alabama win is obviously carrying the weight here, and a little higher than I would put them, but the committee obviously really values that Bama win. Number 13, Auburn. Only 2 losses are Georgia and at Penn State, and really, close game at Penn State, and Georgia. Yep. By Georgia standards, they played them pretty well. So
yeah, normal game, right? Not too bad.
Definitely understandable ranking. Number 12, Baylor. Just amazing year 2 from Dave Aranda here. Maybe playing himself into LSU's next head coach contention. Number 11 is Oklahoma State. And the committee, we've already seen it from the rankings you guys have said. The committee really seemed to value head-to-head. And in this case, I don't have a problem with it. They're right ahead of Baylor, who they beat. I do think Oklahoma State's resume is better, so that makes sense as well.
Pretty similar squads there. It's tough to, but that one you go to head to head. I don't mind.
Right.
All right, number 10, we got Notre Dame sitting at 7-1. Only losses to Cincinnati, who's ranked 6th, and they've just kind of skated by. They're still doing what they're doing. Number 9, we got undefeated Wake Forest. Crazy to say at this point in time. Dave Clawson's doing an unbelievable job there. I'm just happy for Wake to be there. Good for Wake. Number 8, we got OU, Oklahoma, sitting at 9-0 and at 8th. That's pretty far down for an undefeated OU team, right? But they haven't been playing the best. Almost lost to Kansas a couple weeks back, but the offense seems to have turned the corner with Caleb Williams. Number 7, we got Michigan. Tough loss, of course, at Michigan State, but hard to penalize them too much because it was such a good game, and they've had a pretty good start to the year. And number 6 is Cincinnati, undefeated. Great win at Notre Dame. They wish Indiana was a little better, but still sitting undefeated.
And that's the one people are complaining the most about, I feel like.
Yeah.
I wish the G5 would actually set up their schedule to have an open date at the end of the season to set up like a big matchup like they did last year when BYU and Coastal played.
That was so much fun last year.
That could really help a team like Cincinnati if they got to match up against one more good G5 team like a Fresno State or Louisiana or whoever, someone that could just make it a little extra bump.
It's like the Sears bracket busters of college football, huh?
Yeah, that's right. All right, now to the top 5. And this is where we mentioned earlier, they really valued head-to-head. Number 5, Ohio State sits behind number 4, Oregon. And Oregon, It's one of the teams we were kind of most anxious to see where the committee would put them, because they arguably have the best win at Ohio State. But since then, Ohio State has been pretty superior, and the Ducks have had a loss, and they've skated by a couple others, but the committee clearly values that win. Number 3, Michigan State. Maybe slightly overrated here, but certainly deserving of a high ranking. Mel Tucker has sprinkled the magic dust on that team. You got a star in Kenneth Walker. No problem really there. And then number 2 is Alabama. They have the loss at A&M, but they're strong in the metrics. They have 3 ranked wins. No major gripes here. And then, of course, number 1's Georgia. Probably as easy of a number 1 as you could have in any of these years.
Agree with that. Okay, so let's start out with our first question. Who was the most overrated of all these teams we just listed?
Yeah, that's tough. That's such a hard one. You don't want to make anybody upset, but
That's what we're here for, Ryan. Come on.
I actually kind of like that. I'm going to say Oregon at 4. I don't see them being that high. I know they have a good win at Ohio State, but that was when Ohio State was, they were beginning of the year, they weren't playing as well. And just since then, Oregon has just not been, even before that, they haven't been impressive. They haven't been impressive in any game but at Ohio State, it seems like. They just haven't controlled any games that you would expect a team that's in the top 4, to playoff caliber team, to do it. I think they should be probably more like 8th or so. So I think they are my most overrated.
Yeah, I agree that they're over. I think both them and Ohio State. I'm fine with having, at this point, I do think Oregon should be ahead of Ohio State, but I would have both of them much lower than they are. Because I think, for me, the primary factor that I look at is strength of record. And strength of record answers the question, what are the odds an average playoff team or average top 25 team would have your record or better given your schedule? So it's a good way to compare teams, because when you've got a 9-1 team against a 10-0 team, you're like, well, but the 10-0 team played an easier schedule. Which is harder? And strength of record answers that question. So anyway, I looked at that, and Mississippi State, I think, is the most overrated at 17.
Yeah.
Their strength of record is 31st. I really can't find one resume or team metric that would put them in the top 20, other than maybe the preseason FPI, which had them top 10 or whatever.
Oh my God,
that's a joke.
Right.
But no, any current metric, I can't find anything that would put them that high.
Not even the record look.
No, there's nothing. And this is an example, I think, of, particularly this week with this committee, the obsession with head-to-head gone wrong here. Because if you're ranking because they're right ahead of Kentucky. If you're ranking resumes, Kentucky's resume is better than Mississippi State by a decent margin. Okay? And so there's probably some teams in between them if you're just purely ranking resumes. But Kentucky lost to Mississippi State. So the committee said, oh, crap, we have to put Mississippi State ahead of Kentucky. So that might have vaulted them past other teams with better resumes just to get them ahead of Kentucky. And that doesn't make sense to me. You don't have to always, there's plenty of teams head-to-head that beat each other, but if the resumes aren't that close or right next to each other, then you can't just jump the team. So I don't know if I stated that very well, but it frustrates me.
I get it.
And I think that's what's happening, because the same thing happened with Wisconsin and Iowa. Iowa's resume is better than Wisconsin significantly.
Yeah.
But they must have vaulted Wisconsin over some other teams just to get them ahead of Iowa, but that doesn't make sense. Those other teams weren't a party to this head-to-head.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about significantly, but
I think so.
well,
We're talking resumes. I'm not talking necessarily who's better. I think Wisconsin is better.
no, clearly I understand. Yeah.
But it's that's the whole thing. This sometimes come down to a philosophy. Are we ranking who's the most deserving, who's the best? And that's where it kind of I side with most deserving. But if you're ranking who's best, then I guess it is reasonable to put Wisconsin ahead of Iowa.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I agree there. Mississippi State just, to me, jumped off the page because the human polls didn't have them. Computer ratings not that high. And I agree with you on Oregon. That's the thing, Michael, you kind of touched on. You kind of have to set aside the power rating, the point spread rating, and the resume win-loss. Because like you look at Ohio State, they would be like a 2-touchdown favorite over Michigan State. But that doesn't mean that they should be ranked ahead of Michigan State
100%.
in this ranking system, but whatever. Let the season play out. I'm not gonna. If I had to pick an overrated team, since you guys kind of took mine, I'll say Wake Forest. I mean, they're 8-0. They're fortunate in a couple of them. They haven't played a ranked team. Their schedule's been very soft. Best win is at Virginia. They're good. I'm not saying they shouldn't be high, but maybe they're overrated.
Okay, so you're maybe looking at more from a
quality team.
how good really is
resume.
Wake Forest than
A
like
little bit. I try not to, but you guys kind of Mississippi State was the one that really jumped off
that's
the
fair.
page for me.
Yeah.
Okay, how about the most underrated team?
Most underrated. I'm going to say, it's between two for me, and it's hard to go with the other one. I'm going to take Oklahoma. They're undefeated. I know they haven't looked great in a lot of these games, but hey, man, they're 9-0. Their schedule's been fine. They've beaten some pretty good teams, and they have been playing. It seems like they've been perking up a little bit ever since they put in Caleb Williams at quarterback. So I don't know. I guess I'm just seeing it. And they just whooped up on Texas Tech, what a winning record, and they beat Texas, K-State, West Virginia. I don't know. It's just they're undefeated. It's OU. What they haven't won sexy, but
I know people
are.
I know people are complaining about anti G5 bias with having Cincinnati 6th, but OU has a tougher schedule than Cincinnati, better strength of record, and they're undefeated and they're below Cincinnati. So, it's OU's not getting
they're
much
behind
respect
one
either.
loss Michigan. Like that's tough putting them behind a one loss Michigan team.
Yeah. Okay, my most underrated team is one that is not in the rankings, and I think they absolutely deserve to be UTSA. Their strength of record is 11th. An average top 25 team would have only a 40% chance of going undefeated against their schedule. But UTSA did it. Like you may not think that they're that good, but you got to look at what they've done. And I know this schedule isn't super tough, but that's why they're not top 5 or top 10, but they should be in the top
25.
They should be in the top 25. So I think that going undefeated against their schedule is much tougher than one loss against SDSU's schedule or 2 against Fresno's, for example.
Yep.
I like that one. I agree.
I agree with you guys. You guys plucked a couple.
Are we stealing yours?
Well, yeah, but I'm kind of now. I guess I'll just revert back to it's hard not to maybe look more at the team strength and kind of goes against what we were talking about earlier. But Wisconsin at 21, they seem to just have found themselves. They had a difficult schedule early. They've just whipped 2 ranked teams in a row, and I kind of look. I can't help myself but look kind of going forward. They're going to get wins against Rutgers and Northwestern most likely, and so they're the Big Ten West favorite. And I just kind of look at them at 21. I think they're better than that.
I mean, that's fair. It is. This is all just a question of what are we supposed to be ranking? Like, if they say they're ranking the best teams, who's the best? They really aren't. But if that's what they say, and then Wisconsin arguably should be higher. But so you could make the argument they should be higher, they should be lower. Just depends on what you're factoring in. But anyway, want to hear people's thoughts in the comments below. Where do you think the committee's biggest mistakes were? And we will be interacting with you down there. So thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you in those comments.
You've been watching the College Football Bros. Be sure to subscribe here on YouTube and in your podcast app for college football content all year round. For bonus episodes and access to our Discord chat, join our Patreon at patreon.com/collegefootballbros. Thanks for watching.